Well, there's a lot of news buzzing, a shit ton of news buzzing regarding Sony's decisions lately, and I would like to address them along with some other news, specifically addressing next generation and what's happening with that. So the first thing I want to discuss is basically I think I know what Sony's doing with releasing their games possibly on the PC, which nothing has been confirmed. But let's just say theoretically, hypothetically, if they did release it, what does that mean exactly? The second thing I want to talk about is Cyberpunk's delay and the implications of that regarding next generation. And the third thing I want to talk about is there is a horror game that Sony supposedly will be making. They're in talks and development. We don't know who, but we do know, at least if the rumors are to be true, exactly what, they may be working on a horror IP game, which, honestly, you better be because there is definitely a market for a PT type game and just horror in general. And I think that Sony needs to have their own original content and take a crack at it. But let's get started on our first subject. So basically, as I was, on YouTube, kind of seeing what's going on with YouTube and Twitter for the matter, just looking for some subjects to talk about, I noticed that I guess the news of Sony being third party and putting out their games day and date, I guess people had a lot to talk and think about. They let it sink in and they have wanted to talk about it. I've seen this video by a pretty popular YouTuber. He seems to be centric to YouTube or the PlayStation channel centric things. So basically, what I've noticed is that there are, and I'm not mentioning any names. Nigga ain't paying me, so fuck them. Or we don't collaborate, so I don't really give a fuck. But I did see that amongst a lot of people talking about PlayStation shit. So one of the things that they were referring to is, you know, apparently they want to see what are their needs against Sony and what they're planning on doing. So the YouTuber basically states, well, I feel like it's fucked up that Sony may be releasing games day and date. All right, cool. I mean, that's your opinion, and that's not going to stop any kind of corporation from doing this. But I digress, right? That being said, he goes ahead and he states, you know, I feel like the quality of the games will suffer. He then mentions MLB, since that's going to be on like 7 platforms or 6, I'm kind of exaggerating, that is going to suffer some degradation because they needed to focus on that one game and making it work for all 7 platforms or 6 or whatever the fuck it is. He then mentions that what is the point of buying a PlayStation 5 if you're going to release the games day and date? And it's like, okay, I was a Sega fanboy a while ago, and then Sega failed, and then I went to Sony, and the YouTuber states he'll do it again. The point of the matter is this. Him, amongst a lot of YouTubers, and just people in general that have a thought regarding this, is they're missing the bigger picture. The demographics between console, cell phones, and fucking PC are different, and their inherent differences is based off of the inputs. There are certain games that really work well with a mouse and keyboard. There are certain games that really work well with third-person games and games where you can control a character, an avatar, platformers, and things of that nature. And then there are and then the input is basically cater to touchscreens and things of that nature. It spawns different, means of different genres based off of the input. You gotta look at something like, the Wii. The Wii had different games based off of its input. And so this YouTuber, amongst a lot of YouTubers, let's just say YouTubers in general, Sony-centric YouTubers, are missing the biggest mark. They feel that releasing the games on PC it's going to somehow encroach on the fanboys, and it's some sort of betrayal. Even if they're not saying it explicitly, it's a betrayal. We build up the PlayStation, you know what I'm saying, nation and things of that nature. But you know what the funny thing is? The PlayStation 3 sold 80 million units, right? The PlayStation 2 prior to that sold 151 million units. Where the fuck was this PlayStation Nation when it came to building up the PlayStation 3? The point of the matter is, people are fucking fickle. They go wherever the games are, and it has always been that way and always will be, especially when it comes to PlayStation, and especially if it is one of those things where it's, a platform that is agnostic in different genres. You already know what to expect from Nintendo, and they, up until recently, have been specifically exclusive to their either handhelds or home consoles. People don't get it. I want to say that it's not anything personal. That's not what I want to say, because again, I am a PlayStation centric YouTube channel, but I want to be very clear as to what's happening here, and I want to be as objective as possible. I don't want to seem like a fanboy. I just like Sony's products. That doesn't mean that I like some of the directions that they are going into. I would love to have PlayStation create a PlayStation Home again. And with talks of being able to run multiple applications at once, that would be perfect for that platform. That way you can jump in and out of PlayStation or in and out of the community of the PlayStation Home type situation. And I think that would be cool. But they're not going to go in that direction, and I'm really not happy about it. I mean, that's fine. I mean, I'm not going to... It's nice to want things, basically. So one of the things that I was looking at, the biggest picture, and I know I'm rambling, it's been about 7 minutes into this shit. I already went over about the big picture. So here's what I'm going to say, point blank period, about this whole subject. I believe that Sony and what Sony is trying to do is avoid the circumstance that Microsoft put themselves into by releasing Xbox Live service on the PC. Recognize that they have to be free, that platform needs to be free on a PC. And I'm sure Microsoft doesn't want to do that either. They want a subscription service. We all see that. There's no need to dwell on it, but they want that shit. Period. You know what I'm saying? So it looks like Sony, what they're trying to do is incentivize PC gamers to actually use their PlayStation Plus paying online subscription service, but they need something to lure people in there. Remember, Jim Ryan, along with Sean Layden, stated that they wanted to put PlayStation multiplayer games on different platforms. Obviously, we know that means PC. They're not going to put it on the competition. But that would also mean that they would need to create a platform where PC gamers have it for free, which will cause a disparity between the fan base and the PC gaming, thus putting Sony into the same situation that Microsoft is in. But if they disguise this situation, and this is only from a business perspective, it's not a fanboy or anything like that. If they disguise a PC player paying online with you could basically have these games to play that you've never had before, and you can play multiplayer with the PlayStation 5 user base. To me, it sounds like what they're doing is incentivizing people. They need something to bring people in, the same way that PlayStation Plus brought people in paying online by saying we have free games, quote unquote. To me, that's what it looks like they're actually doing. You're not going to sit there and put the platform on PC and say, "Oh, we want to make games on PC." That's not what they're doing, and you're not looking at the bigger picture. Obviously, Sony gets a 30% cut at putting any of their games, or having third-party members putting anything on their store. They get a cut of that because they have something to do with the distribution, right? And if you look at the pie graphs of what Sony actually displayed, I mean, that's where they get most of their money. Is anybody that's putting things on their store, they're getting a 30% cut of it. Billions of games are being purchased, and they're getting 30% of those billions of games. And there's no distribution cost as well. Why the fuck would Sony want to release games on a PC and lose that market share? That's not what they're doing. What I believe that they're doing, because nobody seems to understand this situation, is saying, here, we have a little platform similar to Steam, but it's only exclusive for the PlayStation games. And yes, day and date, you will be able to play multiplayer games or things like Dreams on the PC, but you have to pay the subscription for that, and your incentive is you will get these games to be playable on the PC platform natively. It is not a good look to use the PlayStation Now and have it at 720p and at the mercy of your internet. That's not how you sell things. So shit has to be native. It has to be, where PC people can tinker with it and things of that nature. I mean, the other piece that I'm looking at as well is that this whole quality situation. YouTubers that are PlayStation centric and are passionate about PlayStation, no matter how much they lie and say that they're not, it's just about my decision making. If Sony releases a game on a PC, then why I'm going to play? Why I'm going to buy a $500 box? You're pissed off at the fact that Sony is. You're losing that argument on the Twitter feeds and on social media. That's what it really boils down to. You're not right anymore by saying that Sony is exclusive. But here, I'm here to tell you that you have nothing to fear. It doesn't make sense when I look at all the numbers that Sony would abandon this particular model in its entirety. There's a lot of things that happens and that are included when you do the thing that I just basically mentioned. You are giving PC people a taste to buy the box, because let's be serious, PC players need to buy the box if they want to experience the games when it first comes out. In addition, now all of the games are going to be released on PC anyway. You're going to get something like the PlayStation, and maybe they'll make backwards compatibility PS3, 2, and 1 on a PC as well with this particular service or program or whatever the case is. Maybe that's what's going to happen, so it can incentivize PC players to actually make the game, or I'm sorry, buy the service, whatever dollars a month. That way they're getting money residually from that. They're getting money off of the actual PlayStation Store, and you don't have to put games day and date. So it's almost like a hybrid solution to what Microsoft is doing. Otherwise, they're going to be in the same place that Microsoft is actually in. It looks anti-consumer to pay on the consoles and not pay on PC, and that's what it looks like they're avoiding. And then you can get people, because PC players have consoles. They have no problem buying the console. So I'm just curious to see all these people saying that I'll just buy the PC and that's it. I'm going to say this one more time before I get into this next subject. Recognize that console players, it's all about convenience. I said this before, I'll say this again. Basically, consoles are a plug-and-play situation. No, it's for people that don't want to either spend a lot of money or think about it. Regardless of if you go online and have the computer built, they want a small box, so it's convenience and size. It's just convenience all around. So I don't understand what the struggling is. I don't get it. So that being said, what I was going to say is that there's a degradation of quality, and it's like, where the fuck are you getting this information from? If you've been in the gaming arena and a gaming a crowd for a long time, you should know this. If the games are not coming out day and date, that means that somebody has to port the game out to the PC anyway, right? That means that Sony's A-team, Sony's first party, is going to be completely focused on their hardware. And then some other team, whether they commission a third-party person to do it or they purchase a development team to do it for them, will do the porting. That way they have no fear or no hold up when it comes to shit like that. I just don't understand. That's how I know that there's more to it when people complain about this shit. There's more to it than just saying, I don't know where to spend my money. You're not gonna wait 3 fucking years for a game. Let's be fucking honest here. Let's be real. But yeah, to me, what it looks like is they're gonna actually have somebody else port it years later, and have their A team or their first party make the fucking games specifically to hardware spec. There's no thinking about, oh, I gotta think about all these platforms. Have another nigga fucking port it. I don't understand the making this shit more complicated than what it is. Anyway, not subject. So there was talks about well, not talks, we already know it actually. Cyberpunk has actually been delayed. And the actual talks behind the scenes is that it was delayed simply due to the fact that, welp, it was delayed because the Xbox One, the original Xbox One that came out in 2013, is holding the game up. That's what I'm hearing. That's what we see on, Twitter and whatever media outlet. Here's the thing. Going back to the previous conversation that I had, a previous part of this video, I guess this is what people are afraid of. This is why exclusives matter, quote unquote, or whatever stupid fucking phrase that you guys are using nowadays. Sony's not going to abandon that. That's number one. But going back to Cyberpunk, if this is indeed the case, I've spoken to many PC players that sat there and said that PC games are so much better and all this other shit. But in actuality, it is always going to be held back by the weakest link. You are only as strong as the weakest link. The best thing that you can do if you're going to port a game over in a dirty fashion is to increase the resolution, internal resolution, and increase texture resolution, and add more particles or fucking grass, and that's about it. It won't utilize certain things that the hardware is natively capable of doing. That is just the nature of PC gaming. That's one of the reasons why I haven't jumped on to PC gaming. It's almost, when I look at programming, because I used to program a while ago, it's almost like a challenge, a game of sorts, to actually try to make the system do things that it's not supposed to do, or find ways around bottlenecks or weaknesses and things of that nature. That's one of the things that I like consoles for. It was amazing back in the day. I knew that the PS1 was weak as fuck compared to PC games back in 1999, but some of the things that they've actually ended up doing without even texture filtering and things of that nature, making 2 texture maps, which is almost impossible on a PlayStation. I remember I was playing Tomb Raider Chronicles, and she had like this leather black suit, and there was light actually reflecting off of the black suit. That is basically a 2 texture situation, and it needed to interact with her positioning. That's something that the PlayStation 1 wasn't capable of doing, but they made it work because they knew how the system was, and any kind of strengths, they were making that system saying point blank period. Going back to Cyberpunk, there's only so much that you can do, and I knew the game was going to be limited. There's only so much space that it could do. There's only, like for instance, Horizon Zero Dawn. They couldn't have any flying enemies that you can mount onto because of the memory restrictions. There was nothing that they could have done to fix that, unless you had programmed the game on better hardware. Point blank period. So this is not surprising to me. This is a very rough time in game development where you look at, wow, like you'd be like, shit. You look at the situation and you're like, damn, I want the old generation and a new generation of people to play it. I want everybody from 2013 onward to today to play my game, and that's how investors and shareholders look at that shit too. So they want them to make the game for all platforms, and that's not an easy task. The Xbox One has a different memory structure than the PlayStation 4, and then the PlayStation 4 is completely outclassed by the PlayStation Pro in terms of what it can process, and it has more memory, a gig of memory, even though it's slower, but it has freed up memory. And then that's completely outclassed by the Xbox One X, by faster memory bandwidth and a faster CPU processor and a better GPU. And then that system is outclassed by PCs. And to make all of them shit saying, the logical step is to work on the weakest one, get that working, and then take your base format or your base, game and move that shit onto the PC or the next strongest hardware, and then see how much wiggle room you have to increase whatever resolution, whatever it may be, and you just scale up that way. But the thing about it is, if you have a certain vision in mind, if you wanted to have flying mounts in Horizon Zero Dawn, then you have to compromise the environment to make that happen so the game could render the environment as you are up in the air. So the best thing you could do is degrade the graphics to make sure that works on that original platform, but it's still bound by the weakest platform. So I'm going to touch back on the first subject that I had in this video yet again, because I feel like I have to keep doing it. Sony is definitely not going to forget about their exclusive first-party games or their first-party developers. But I believe in the future you won't have a day and date, but it'll be used to lure people into buying the PlayStation Now subscription. But that's going to be ported over by a different team altogether. And they can figure that shit out. Point blank. Basically, the reason why I'm mentioning this anyway is because it kind of ties into that shit anyway, if you really look at it. But, I already said all my piece. I've completely exhausted this shit, and now I'm going to move on to my next subject. The last subject I would like to talk about is, very quickly, apparently Sony is, in talks with a new IP in a horror genre. Now, I want you guys to understand that Sony does have people under their belt that does horror in general. That is the Team Silent, or better known as Team, Gravity? I forgot what the fuck they call themselves now. The people who are in charge of Gravity Rush are the same people that are in charge of, what is that game called? Siren. They originally came from the Silent Hill group, and Sony took them in, but they never really worked on any kind of horror games to any kind of AAA capacity. Now, people are in talks of, or people are suspecting that Kojima will be making or helping making this game. And again, I've already have videos about how I feel about Kojima and how I feel about his games and the way that he developed his games in general. And listen, I have no problem with his design philosophies. I have no problem with it. But the thing that I'm curious about is he does need he needs some reins. I'm not gonna lie. He made PT, and PT was one of the scariest pieces of media that I've ever experienced. But at the same time, that was a small slice of the game. And if you look at Death Stranding, there are small slices where he will show different types of of cutscenes and things like that, and that looked promising. Only to find out when I actually played the game that a lot of the shit was all over the place, and it was only that specific slice that was really nice. I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer of any sorts, but I'm just keeping it real with you of how I feel about it. Hopefully, if they do integrate Kojima into this Team Silent or Team Gravity, that they're get more people to create a decent engine, that they'll get more people to rein him in, and then basically have like a joint effort with the guy who created Silent Hill with Kojima, and hopefully they can make a decent IP. But honestly, I think Sony needs to expand their repertoire of games in general. I mean, they do have sports, they do have racing, and then they have action adventure, which spans across the Uncharted games or God of War, and they do have first person games, but they don't really tackle multiplayer. I just feel like if they're going to be a big publisher, then yes, they definitely need to expand their titles, and this is a good thing. I think that just like Bloodborne was created, I think that Sony needs a dedicated developer if they're going to go this semi third person or third party route, that they need to either purchase or take this shit seriously. Resident Evil is making a fucking killing. Konami is making a killing off of this shit. They really are. And it's nice that they are making a killing. This is one of those things that I'm like, wow, like I would love to see a company that is passionate about their craft make a horror game. I straight up would love to see that. But that's all the news I have. I'm sorry for making a very long video again, but I don't care at this point in time. It's not going to get as many views as I want it to be. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Who the fuck cares? But let me know how much you enjoyed this video by hitting that like button if you want to, or share it if you want to. I don't really give a fuck. I'm still going to pump up these videos regardless. Take care, guys. Have a good day.